The writing is only getting better as we go. Cold Alliance was rich with compelling themes, patriarchy, tradition, material and immaterial value, and yet, the stronger the story becomes, the more the framework has to strain to support it. As we get further and further away from the run and jumping that Sly was founded on, finding ways to uphold the story with more and more ideas, characters, and gimmicks, it's easy to criticize Sucker Punch for piling on the toppings and the sauces when all I asked for was a cheese pizza.
Whatever happened to the concept of less is more?
But if less is more, then just think how much more and more will be.
It feels cheap to make jokes. We've already discussed at length the design philosophies that led to their decision to add so much gameplay variety. The experience of a theme park, the gang's thieving opportunities chafing under the limitations of the simple control scheme. But one thing you have to give Sucker Punch is that they know when an idea has run out of rope. Whenever a funky vehicle segment rears its head, you can at least be sure that it'll only show up again if it's served by some sort of twist or escalation, which in its own way is kind of remarkable. That entire control schemes and animation rigs were created for the sake of one mission apiece shows a lot of restraint on the developer's behalf, and more respect for their players' time than most people give them credit for. A less savvy team would rationalize that the work they put into such a minigame should be justified by having you play it constantly. But Sucker Punch's emphasis on variety has always given each level, each mission, and especially now, each character their own flavor. And I would be hard-pressed to identify an episode where those ideas are better highlighted than Dead Men Tell No Tales. Another one of those killer tableaus of the gang. Penelope's sticking close to Sly, this time the King's the one in the outer orbit. I gotta say, the Guru's gremlin energy is really growing on me.
We got the message late one Saturday night. Dimitri was calling in the favor I promised him back in Holland.
Dimitri's profile picture is a direct screen grab from the intro to Black Chateau. And man, it's criminal we don't get these lines voice acted. I feel like reading into the orthography here. Check out the way Dimitri starts by properly capitalizing his sentences, but once he starts getting static from Bentley, he pivots to reflect the slightly more shorthand style. Given we know the reason for Dimitri's broken English is that he's something of a linguistic chameleon, I just think that's nice. Once again, Penelope is looking even better than her anime profile pic. Panda King in a t-shirt is hilarious. Everybody Koopa until Sly shows up with the golden teeth. Murray rocking that Eye of Ra tattoo and his dark poetry of darkness. Bentley's giddy-up strikes me as a direct reference to Buffalo Bill, and I'm assuming Guru's baseball outfit isn't meant to evoke a specific team, but if it is, it's probably the Oakland A's. I love to see the team traveling in style like this, especially since cruise ships are on that hotel level for me, so where are we off to in such high fashion?
Bloodbath Bay. Easily the most lawless town on Earth. It's home to a group of cultural hermits who doggedly maintain the ways of their pirate forefathers.
Bloodbath Bay is not a real place, and from the sounds of it, we should be glad of that, but its origins as a hub of piracy are undoubtedly rooted in the likes of Nassau and the Isle of Tortuga, which were famous no-questions-asked havens for pirates, but that was in like the 1600s, so our destination here is something of an island out of time, which I'll dive further into in a bit.
The cruise over gave us some time to get the rundown from Dimitri. I guess his grandfather, Remy Lusteau, was a pioneer in deep-sea diving. He'd made a fortune looting undersea wrecks.
Remy Lusteau is probably a reference to Jacques Cousteau, the real-life father of scuba diving. I was consulting the likelihood this was a deliberate reference with my friend and editor Igrilith, who happens to be a massive marine nerd, and it quickly blossomed into a really fascinating rabbit hole. So you know what? It's time I properly introduced someone. This is Tusi Phoebe.
Hello!
We came up with her to be a stand-in for the audience for me to occasionally bounce off of, but given she's already voiced by my friend Igrilith, take it away.
Alright, so let's start with the species. Dimitri, and by extension his grandfather, are both marine iguanas, the species of large marine lizards endemic only to the Galapagos. Despite how voracious they look, they're actually herbivores and subsist almost entirely on marine algae. They do this, how else, by diving, and can hold their breath for anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes.
Then we've got their nationality. Like Jacques, Dimitri hails from France, but curiously, his grandfather is from the Caribbean. It seems he was still a francophone though, so we figure he was most likely born in Haiti, around the early 1900s.
Which places this particular Wikilotherm's preeminent plundering pursuits right around the revolution of autonomous underwater diving. In 1942, Jacques Cousteau and his partner Emile Gagnon developed what they had dubbed the Aqualung, the first ever open-circuit, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. And yeah, that's where Scuba comes from. So this French-speaking marine iguana's grandfather, who possessed this revolutionary scuba gear, who was diving around the time that the Aqualung was invented, and whose last name is one letter off from the also French-speaking inventor of scuba, according to the Sly Wiki, is only potentially a reference. Wait, hold on. Is his name really spelled that way?
Yeah, why?
Because it's not how you spell Remy.
Sure it is, it's right there.
But Wikipedia has like 20 spellings and none of them are.
Now, the really fascinating takeaway for me is the realization that this must have been planned to an extent when Sly 2 was still in development. Given that Dimitri's last name was known internally, and that his species hails from the opposite side of the world from where he set up shop. Sucker Punch has always been extremely deliberate in choosing what animal to use for which character, and nationality is at the forefront of that decision-making process. So why put a Galapagosian lizard in Paris? Add to that, we have some evidence there may once have been a pirate level planned for Sly 2. We have this artwork of an unused gorilla boss, and it just gets the wheels in my head spinning, wondering how long this has been planned.
Although his luck ran short when a young cutthroat by the name of Black Spot Pete stole not only his loot, but his precious diving gear as well.
Black Spot Pete is not named after a famous pirate, but rather after a piratical tradition thought up by Robert Louis Stevenson for his novel Treasure Island, which you can be sure we'll be paying a lot of homage to going forward.
A broken man, Remy retired from treasure hunting and eventually started a family.
Tell us what happened to Dimitri's little sister, you cowards! I demand to know!
Dimitri, growing up on his grandfather's stories, dreamed of one day recovering the gear. So that was our task. We've been called in to get our hands on this miraculous diving equipment.
It's a weird premise, right? Even before we get into the mini anachronisms, our objective is just this 60-plus-year-old set of diving gear. Dimitri, I know your main goal is probably revenge, but I'm pretty sure we could just buy you a straight-up better scuba suit, right? Welcome, everyone and everything, to Dead Men Tell No Tales, something of a watershed chapter in Sly's history, more removed from its groundings in reality than most anything we've had to contend with. Even when the generally more fantastical Sly 1 did pirates, it didn't give much time to focus on it. Like, yeah, pirates still exist, but a full shipyard of wooden three-masted galleons and schooners, a stone skull fortress, and an entire port of scurvy dogs bedecked in bandanas, peg legs, and eye patches? We have functionally time-traveled to the golden age of piracy, and that may be a tough pill to swallow. It's probably gonna depend on how much Yarhar Fiddle-Dee-Dee is in your heart, but I think it's also important to look at this from the perspective of its era. Pirates have been a matter of morbid curiosity in the literary world for centuries. Treasure Island is probably the most famous story about them, thanks in no small part to its many adaptations, but swashbuckling stories put to paper and film were in perpetual vogue from like 1724 through to the 1960s, with Disneyland's own Pirates of the Caribbean ride being something of a last gasp for the genre before... You wanna guess what happened?
It's one small step for man.
In the wake of the space race, science fiction completely eclipsed its historical and fantastic rivals. In fact, just because it makes my point, less than a year after the Pirates of the Caribbean ride opened, Disney's Tomorrowland began a massive renovation with renewed sci-fi vigor. You could no longer profitably tell a story about pirates unless they were crewing a spaceship. It's a bit ironic then that it was also Disney, once so eager to chase trends, that started the new pirate boom of the early 2000s, with a movie adaptation of the same ride that practically rang the old boom's death knell. The Curse of the Black Pearl is genuinely one of Walt Disney Pictures' greatest achievements. And not that I have the time here, but I don't even need to prove that, because just look what happened next. And nowhere was that buccaneering influence felt more than in the realm of video games. A torch which otherwise had all but solely been carried by the Monkey Island series was suddenly taken up by everyone in reach, and that privateer fever has only intensified over time. Curiously, one of the front runners in that crowd was our very own Sneaky Raccoon, and it's kind of a feather in his tricorn. We've barely scratched the surface though, so before I spoil the surprise, let's get underway. Bloodbath Bay is a surprisingly small map that nonetheless has a lot of fun nooks and crannies to explore. This misty path along the rocks at the foot of the waterfall takes today's Secret Pagoda Room award for stuff I never knew was in the game. But in terms of the rest of the town, I love how the maritime aesthetic of line everywhere means Sucker Punch needs no excuse to make this whole area relentlessly climbable. And the forest of masts and crow's nest makes this an absolute playground for our paraglider. Not to mention the very considerate inclusion of this catapult on top of the safe house.
There he is, Black Spot Pete.
I didn't think pirates could get that old. Thought scurvy would get them or something.
Don't lower your guard for an instant. All pirates are killers, plain as that, and they don't trust outsiders at all. How's your pirate accent?
Arr, I forgot me number 2 pencil for the Scantron test.
Joke all you want, but that guy won't help us out until you've earned his trust.
Black Spot Pete's got a pickpocket pouch on his back, but there's never anything in it, though we can probably assume there was intended to be at an earlier point in development. Honestly, I'm a bit surprised at the overt alcohol references around this level. I know the ESRB can slap a T rating on you for that, and I figure if it weren't an issue, the beverages back at the Hotel del Europe would probably have been more overtly wine, to say nothing of the lemonade bar.
Black Spot Pete, I've come to talk of treasure, a subject I hear you're familiar with.
Treasure! Aye! But I won't chatter with the likes of you on so blessed a subject. Get out of my sight, landlubber. All my years I only spoke of the golden kindness with me partner, cantankerous Tim.
Maybe we can work out a bargain.
Shut your mouth hole, lubber, and cork it with me cutlass. Hard on the tonsils, I assure you.
God damn, that was a really vivid, child-friendly death threat. Oh my god. Old Pete's got these kinda creepy, bulbous eyes with no pupils, I guess to drive home how blind he is. He can't be interacted with in any way, or even seem to see or hear you no matter what you do.
Salt of the earth, that Black Spot Pete.
It's clear to get anywhere with the old coot, we'll need to fool him into thinking that you're Cantankerous Tim.
The job becomes a series of antics centered around stealing pieces of Cantankerous Tim's old pirate outfit from a bunch of various guards, starting with this guy.
That's Stone Jake, toughest guy you'll ever meet.
This level's flashlight guards are basset hounds, and wield full-on cannons, which is pretty badass. I love the way they just drop it on you as a melee attack. So Stone Jake here, the keeper of the eye patch, is invincible to all our antics, and we're intended to lure him across the map to an anchor trap and concuss him that way.
Stone Jake has a thing about monkeys. If you whack the palm trees, he's sure to come running.
Funnily enough, this level's regular flashlighters are a rare breed not to have any resistance to your jump attack. But Jake here is in another league. He can even swim? Oh dear lord, he can't be stopped. Funnily, his weakness isn't anchors, but this anchor specifically. If you manage to lure him through town instead of along the beach, he can shrug off any other trap no problem, so it's gotta be the one by the fortress. We could lure him carefully around, or we could make use of the newest gadget available to Sly, Shadow Power 2. This one lets us do basically anything while invisible, running, jumping, attacking, even pickpocketing, and will remain undetectable unless we attack a guard directly. You'll notice it doesn't replace Shadow Power 1, and that's because it also drains our gadget meter a little faster, so you can pick based on the situation.
There's the second lieutenant. You need to steal his peg leg.
Peg leg? Seriously? Isn't that kind of harsh?
You'll need it for the costume. It's very unique. Look, what you need to worry about is getting past his bodyguards.
I'll have to pick them off one by one.
Oh yeah, sure I will.
Excellent work.
I love how, from his bodyguard's perspective, this guy basically just tripped and died, and they're completely unconcerned. These Chihuahua guards are kinda funny. For the longest time, I thought they were cats because all their voice lines are recycled from the cat guards in Venice. I think some of their animations are too. Rounding out our trio are Golden Retrievers. They're probably my favorite in the game. They really just have so much swashbuckling swagger, dual-wielding swords, and they're the first rooftop guard to realize the flashlights aren't the only ones allowed to have guns. And they can blast you with a pistol at mid-range. If you just swing mindlessly at them, they can effortlessly block and parry your attacks. I like them. They're good boys. Even though they do have an embarrassing tendency to fall asleep on slanted roofs and slide off to their deaths.
You've just got one lieutenant left, Twitchy Ned. I'm afraid word's gotten out that someone is taking down lieutenants, and he's hiding out up in a crow's nest.
Twitchy Ned's a fun one-off character. I like all this chatter he spouts as you climb up to his hiding spot.
They're everywhere. The dogs are closing in. Stay awake. Keep your wits about you, Ned. Stay sharp. Yes, sharp as an axe, sharp as a pin, sharp as a pack, sharp as a... Gotta keep alert. Alert.
I also like that you can skip it using the catapult.
They're everywhere. The dogs are... Ah! I know it! 'Tis true! An Asian of Thames come for revenge!
Chase him down, he's got Tim's hat!
This chase through town is a great time. You can really let loose with the stealth slide and feral pounce to keep the pace, even if he rubber bands extremely generously. He'll also steal your signature move and try and drop stuff on you. Funny thing this, in any other case, these would be one-hit kills.
What an idiot.
But I can see why they wouldn't have felt that was fair. While we dog after him, this is going to seem a weird spot to bring this up, but our next stage of grief in the 7-stage model is called testing. This one's not terribly consistent or as easy to explain. Essentially, it encapsulates any behavior where the griever doesn't transition smoothly from depression to acceptance, and can describe a lot of emotions or signs. Someone in the testing phase might essentially relapse and go through many of the prior stages again. If we start with denial and its entanglement with refusing to let go of the second game, stealing all 3 of these pirate articles has been deeply reminiscent of some of the most memorable missions from Sly 2, luring Rajan around with sound, picking off the Contessa's bodyguards, and chasing Neela through Paris and India. Not to mention the process of stealing an outfit piece by piece, like we did with the tuxedo in the guest house. Bloodbath Bay, as Sly 3's penultimate level, is naturally a melting pot of ideas from across the series taking their final bow, and I'd say it's definitely worth considering that this whole stage of grief parallel could be a coincidence. I've certainly had to reach at times to make it fit, and I barely mentioned depression during Cold Alliance because it was a lot more subtextual than overt. It's feasible that this is all just a consequence of especially competent writing, the natural progression of the human psyche spilling over into the creative process, but the ways it does often fit are really compelling to me.
Avast there! You've got me with me back to the sea. I yield!
I just wanted your hat.
Me hat? That's what this be about? Take the molding cut of cloth and away with you!
A few neat details about that chase: he won't bother with the drop traps if you get ahead of him, which is nice. And when you run by Black Spot Pete, he has his own reaction to the chase.
What's your skylarking, you young pups?
I also happened upon a funny glitch while I was running through this mission on another file. Somehow, Ned managed to fall out of his crow's nest, and you can just interact with him like any other guard. Turns out, he's actually the toughest guy we'll ever meet, and he can even survive the anchor we used on Jake. Twice. He does immediately teleport to where he's supposed to be if you climb up the rope though, so this isn't any kind of soft lock. The pirate outfit is our 4th and final disguise. Though the game never draws attention to it, it does function just like the Venice and China disguises, enabling us to play the password game with the dogs around here.
Whole spar, port, jib.
New blood, eh?
It's probably good the game never has you do this because it makes the least sense out of the 3. The implication is that Bentley had access to some sort of database of the passwords, which is how he can feed them to Sly. But we're given no reason to believe these dogs would keep such a database.
Spar, 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 spar.
Me bad.
One last time, my favorite part are the exchanges you get for failing.
News you was a rat.
It's a good thing I enjoy that because there's a trophy for failing to sneak past a Venetian guard in all 3 equipable disguises. There is technically a 5th disguise in this game, but it's inaccessible without manipulating the code. It's this shadowy silhouette form Sly wears in the opening cutscene. If we hack it into the game, we'll find that it functions as an all-purpose disguise, fooling pirates, Imperial guards, and Venetian mobsters alike. It goes a step further, too. If you wear it in front of guards that have no password game involved, they'll just ignore you as though you're invisible. I also tried it on the mercenaries in the police station, and was tickled to discover they count as the guards outside for these purposes.
Alto soprano.
Okay.
In fact, this works with the normal disguise too, though I'd have never thought to try that. Dead Men Tell No Tales has some of the funniest mission fail screens in the game. This one's a great example. Approach Pete out of costume and...
So off, landlubber!
Arrgh!
What? Cantankerous Tim! You're back, you two-faced Callaway!
Aye, matey. And not to be rude, but let's talk of treasure. Arr.
How about a round of vinegar talk first, you baboon-faced toilet?
I've read about this, Sly. It's customary for pirates to engage in insult competitions. Just make sure you never repeat anything that's already been said.
At long last, a challenge element to this dialogue tree mechanic.
You're a pig-breathed, pus-faced whale fart.
Trading insults from these options while having to remember which ones have already been flung under a time crunch is extremely charming. Not least because this is all too likely a nod to those Monkey Island games I brought up earlier, where a good parry and thrust meant nothing if it wasn't backed up by a good verbal jab.
You fight like a dairy farmer.
How appropriate! You fight like a cow.
It's not too hard. The fact that the options all shuffle each round means you can't just fixate on which buttons you've already pressed. You have to actually focus on the words, but it can definitely depend on what your memory is good at. If you're like me, whose memory latches on to images a lot easier than it does words, Sucker Punch's good old suck system has you covered. On a fresh attempt, you'll need to get through 3 batches of insults, throwing barbs 5 times to satisfy Pete. If you fail a few times though, the session shortens to 2 batches, and you only have to pick a unique set 3 times before the game ends.
You're a bleating, grog-abusing angerhead.
Ha ha! Cantankerous Tim, it must be you. Forgive this old sea dog and his sunburnt eyes for not recognizing you straight away. I've never met a man on land or sea that could curse half as well. Tell me, shipmate, why after so long away do you drop anchor now?
I've come for me share of the treasure we stole years back from that Remy Lousteau fella.
'Twas a good haul, that. I speak of it while drunk often. You and I burying the loot in the belly of Dagger Isle. Aye, and many a year I kept the map to the treasure hidden, safe as a swaddling babe.
Arr, then let's have it. High time we dug up our retirement and lived as lords.
It shames me fierce to tell you, shipmate, but I lost me galleon in a game of cards. And worse yet, the map was stolen by that terror, Captain LeFwee.
What? What? I'd have run him through with my cutlass before giving up so treasured a parchment.
This LeFwee's no ordinary buccaneer, no. He's earned the reputation as the smartest man on the 7 seas. The devil lives in yonder cape. 'Tis there you'll find the map, and your death as well. If you go for the treasure, shipmate, you go alone. Me seafaring days are long behind me.
Thank you, Pete. You've been a good friend.
Aye, and you're still a skinny, malodorous, hairy-palmed bottom feeder.
We got Master Thief challenges both for Jake's segment and the Nameless Peg Leg Chihuahua, both with a time crunch. Jake's section is way faster if you just get spotted and lure him the old-fashioned way instead of bothering with the trees. As long as you stay outside his light, his aim's poor enough it doesn't even feel particularly risky. And of course, this guy's no match for Shadow Power 2. But I suppose if you were going for a no-gadget challenge or something like that, then what you'll want to do is get the perfect shot with this boat to take out both bodyguards in one go. Either way, not terribly complicated. This is probably the most exciting Chalk Talk in the game. We're gonna need to steal Pete's treasure map from the Foreboding Fortress, but the Dagger Island he mentioned is nowhere close to us. So to reach it, we are going to have to steal a boat!
Commandeer. We're gonna commandeer that ship, Nautical Town.
Before we start buckling and swashing, there are a couple small details around town I want to point out. Like this little shack called the Rusty Blade, and then this building called the Pirate Grill. That one and one other building have a poster advertising the wedding of Dev and Karen. This is real. Sucker Punch's Dev Madan and Karen Yamagiwa got engaged and married over the course of this game's development, and the team put these posters into the game to celebrate, which is just so gosh dang adorable.
Okay, Penelope, I'm in position with your hover spectrometer. I'll launch the device, and you scan for metal structures that resemble a safe or chest, anything the treasure map might be stored in.
From my understanding, a precise enough spectrometer actually could be used as a long-range metal detector. These days, they're mainly used to determine the compositions of distant stars and planets, so you know, I don't know.
Roger, Bentley. Let's light this candle.
Be still, my heart. She made an obscure NASA reference. Why do the girls always have to go for Sly? It's just not fair.
I'm not sure how obscure that is, Bentley. I think that's only one step down from Houston, we have a problem. Now if she says, please be informed there is a Santa Claus, then we can talk. Being serious, Bentley and Penelope's developing dynamic is about to become one of the main focuses of this episode. I could talk it over as we go, but I think I'd best save it for the wrap-up.
Spectrometer's matrix.
What matter of witchcraft is that?
Pretty obvious one, the sound this machine makes is reused from the Contessa's hypnosis powers.
Ah, well, best to shoot first and ponder later.
No! We haven't downloaded yet.
Ah, the pieces are still intact. The disk is shattered, but we can still retrieve the data.
But it's broken, and I rig all my gear to self-destruct if anyone tries to take it after a malfunction.
The disc will destroy itself if someone tries to pick it up.
Man, this mission skirts the razor's edge of contrived setup. It feels really clever that Penelope would have her equipment rigged with a failsafe to prevent it from being stolen, but not as clever that she wouldn't have some means of overriding that. Regardless, this is a really fun use of the RC car, so I don't especially mind how we got here. You may have already noticed all these ramps scattered around town and thought nothing of them, but now you can use them to drive between rooftops and gather the scattered data, all while fending off the technophobic pirates. I'm into it.
We should have all of the spectrometer data.
Hold on. I got it. There's a massive chest near the top east-facing windows. Let's go.
Penelope following us around has all the same characteristics as her playable version we unearthed from the code in Cold Alliance. Though Bentley's melee attacks can't hurt her, she's susceptible to a number of his gadgets. Not the fun ones though. You can't even shrink her with our brand new reduction bomb, which I am a bit disappointed by. Strangely, she doesn't seem to be vulnerable to damage, so even though enemies can target her instead of you, it's not like this is a traditional escort mission. She's here solely for the teamwork vibes.
This LeFwee guy is really on it. He must have seen the disc and raised all the bridges to the fort. There's no way in.
I've dealt with guys like this before. They can't really trust their own men, so they always keep an escape route handy. You just have to look around a little.
Wow, Sly's really taught you a lot.
Sly? We're a team. In case you haven't noticed, I'm the brains of the operation. He's just the field man.
Just the field man? Sounds like you're jealous.
Well, yeah, I wish I wasn't in this chair. I wish I could run on tight ropes and jump on flag poles and all that stuff. But I can't.
You can do other stuff. Sly can't rewire a satellite or write ASCII code.
Sly can't even spell ASCII.
Yeah, he's not the most technical guy. Hey, let's get moving. We won't find the back entrance just standing around. Oh, sorry about that standing comment.
Give me a break, Penelope. It's just an expression.
Just keep it in mind. We're gonna talk about it. The drawbridges raising up is a fun bit of dynamic world design, but this flashlight guard's patrol route wasn't made dynamic to match, and he'd rather die than be stuck up here. You can make it to the front door no issue, but these two techies are dead set on a back door, so we gotta go around. This wiggly water's a lot easier to traverse than it looks.
Penelope, I've told you this before. You know I'm afraid of the water.
I'll tell you something, by thunder. That disc in the sky was just the beginning. But, sir, 'tis gone. Them bridges is up and all's as clear as morning. Sure. Every man's entitled to their opinion. But I don't want to hear no more of him. Second Mate Jones.
Yes, sir.
You're now promoted to Captain of the Guard.
Thank you, sir.
Double the patrols and keep an eye out. There's a storm blowing in. I'll be just inside torturing the prisoners. Call out if you need help.
No, sir. Aye, sir.
LeFwee is not a villain often talked about all that favorably in the Sly fandom. He's not down in the Mask of Dark Earth tier, but the fact that, just like the Mask, he's not established in the opening cutscene makes him feel a bit ornamental. But this scene establishes him wonderfully. I love how Jones really doesn't want to be in charge given what he just saw happen to the first mate, and the way every word LeFwee speaks is laced with threat despite the words themselves. He's also got a really cool element to his design that I guess went a bit unfinished. He's not holding that sword. His hand is a play off of a pirate's hook by being a sort of Swiss Army knife but for buccaneering cutlery. Unfortunately, its function seems like it was never implemented to his in-game model, and he'll only use it in its sword form. But either way, this does mean he wields his sword left-handed, which is always just that little bit cooler. And of course, I gotta give it up for David Scully, voice of Dimitri, Don Octavio, and LeFwee, not to mention Rajan. It's also worth noting that both LeFwee and Black Spot Pete are the same species, Eclectus parrots, though LeFwee has the same coloring as a female of the species. So, you know, be your authentic self, LeFwee. We love to see it.
We can't get inside with these pirates guarding the door. Time for a little swashbuckling.
This is the closest the game ever gets to fulfilling my wish of a stealthy Bentley base assault. There's nothing stopping us from just running around and mashing square, but we can use any of our tools to do this as elaborately as possible. It's just a shame it's over so quickly.
Not too shabby, Bentley. Not bad at all. On three, in pirates. 1, 2, 3. Arr!
Really good to know you still know your pirate talk, Annette.
Arg when I'm happy. Arg when I'm sad. Arg when I'm good or bad. Arg!
Okay, I know it's not just gonna let me in without pressing anything, but I gotta try. Hey, they actually got the cardinal direction right according to the in-game compass. That never happens.
There's a massive chest near the top east-facing windows. I've never seen a security chest so thick with traps.
I don't know. Looks pretty straightforward. If I had my spanner set, this would be a cinch.
Really? Let's head back to the safe house and get your tools.
I'd like to stay here if you don't mind and study it some more.
Sure, I'll be back in a flash.
The design on this chest's trap system is really cool. Got this whole Kraken aesthetic.
I've got your spanners and I'm on my way back.
Great! But I think I've already got it. This is it! The Dagger Island treasure map. Ah! My eyes! I can't see, some kind of blinding dust.
That's a bit silly, isn't it? Like, she's wearing glasses that would have blocked most of it. Why not just make this a flashbang?
I'll save you! I'll think of something! Perfect! I'm sure she won't mind if I take the turret off her car.
Hurry, Bentley! I'm getting kind of scared here.
Once again, we're really skirting contrivance here that Bentley or another team member can't just run over there and guide her by the hand, but in exchange, we get this sweet upgrade to the Binocucom. He says he took the turret off the RC car, but this one doesn't even have to deal with overheating. It's a direct upgrade. For the rest of this mission, Bentley is invincible and undetectable by guards, and we're not allowed to exit the grapple cam. We are allowed to self-destruct it though, which results in an instant mission failure. Penelope now has an HP meter, which if I'm not mistaken is actually bigger than Murray's. That's pretty overkill since the streets are practically abandoned, and even if they weren't, this new turret rips apart guards like nothing. So the only way she should even take damage here is if you gun her down yourself, or lure her poor trusting lack of a tail into the water. This is the mission I was alluding to last time with the contextual callouts. I'm really glad Bentley doesn't relentlessly insult her across town, even if I'm not convinced that any of the sailors around here wouldn't find these suspiciously unorthological. Unornithological. Why? Why did I do that to myself? Even if I'm not convinced that any of the sailors around here wouldn't find these suspiciously unornithological.
My darling, that is the cry of the deep doo-doo bird. I must fly.
Penelope!
Bentley? Thank you. I was really scared there for a bit. You saved my life.
There now. Let's get you inside and make sure that dust has no permanent effects.
And he opens the door for her. Way to stick the landing, Shellhead.
And some say chivalry is dead.
With the new guns blazing grapple cam in hand, its sheer power has some especially fun applications in some old missions. They're not usually practical though. Like, this looks like it's working, but none of these guards we're taking down count as being downed by Bentley, so we can never win the brawl this way. You can use it to destroy the tar pumps though, which is absolutely easier than the old-fashioned method.
More bombs. This is getting serious. Better hurry it up with those pipes.
Murray is completely in his element on this map thanks to this catapult. In fact, he's the only one of the three who can make it onto the top of the Skull Keep without the use of glitches. And even then, not in the PS3 version. For whatever reason, his bounce height is significantly diminished in this version, like it's night and day.
Okay, Murray, I need you and Sly to blast the rudders off all the galleons in port. With their boats disabled, the pirates won't be able to chase after us when we sail for Dagger Island.
That sounds like a job for a man of my many destructive habits.
You said it. Take out the harbor patrol, and there'll be no one left to chase after us when we appropriate a pirate boat.
Well, break out the rammers and call me skipper. We're taken to the water. I guess Murray's been practicing since we took on the Dutch Soors. This man can row! Why are we even trying to steal one of the big boats? Take us out to sea, Murray. Bring me that horizon. I guess these pirates can really aim. Wow. Okay, so this cannon feels surprisingly good to use, and given how fast Murray can accelerate, dodging the incoming projectiles feels pretty good too. We'll escalate from taking out the stationary rudders, to these enemy patrol boats, to this large cutter, all while constantly sustaining enemy fire. It's fairly simple when you get the hang of it, so you know, I really don't know when I'm gonna get a better opportunity to talk about how hard this level nails the music. So now's as good a time as any. Have a gander. Now, I have a pretty surface level understanding of music theory, but I for sure know what's going on here. The use of extremely low woodwind instruments like bassoon and bass clarinet emulate the sound of a creaking hull. Hints of concertina, flute, and various strings call back to the instruments typically used in centuries-old sea shanties and Anglo-Celtic folk songs.
What for the daddy-o? What for the daddy-o? There's whiskey in the jar.
And these harsh warbled brass stings are basically just a reference to the Disney ride. It all comes together to be an eternally hummable tune that fits the mood like a glove.
Hey, we would have been sunk without your rowing.
When you guys are done making out, I'll see you back at the safe house. Sheesh.
Bentley, I will make you eat those words before we're done here today. Fun details for that mission, unlike the rubber boat, the Jollyboat does have a sinking animation. There's this cave-shaped rock way over outside the range of the action. There's no reason for you to row through it, but the fact you can makes me happy. And perhaps most entertaining, it's not difficult to get the harbor patrol to sink themselves. All you have to do is sit directly in front of them. We're challenged to do the patrol boat leg of that mission under time pressure, which is fine, but I feel like a lot of these Master Thief challenges have been phoning it in a bit. In theory, I love the opportunity to feel the burn of a challenge in the midst of a game that's otherwise so child-friendly. But the increase in difficulty is always so incremental. It often feels like you're doing the same mission again, but without the story context, and that is a brutal blow, considering these minigames live and die on context. To contrast with the original game, let's take that one notorious Piranha Lake mission as a point of comparison. Why is Sly riding a hover skiff that eats piranhas and spits out fire? Because if he lights the torches, the gate will open and he'll receive a generic treasure key, essentially a power star he can use to open the gate to the boss. It doesn't matter what Sly, or occasionally Murray, does in this game. The goal is always the key you'll get at the end. So the question you as the player may end up asking yourself, even if only subconsciously, is, why am I doing it this way? Sly is a thief who can steal and climb anything. That's the whole point. So why are we not climbing over all this stuff and grabbing whatever keys we need? That same question isn't raised nearly as often in Sly 2 and 3. As long as your disbelief is decently suspended, the games are great at providing a reason for every antic. Like, how would we do this if not with the Jollyboat? I guess Penelope's chopper could take out the sailors, but in-universe, she and Bentley are currently engaged in retrieving the map, so within Sly and Murray's skill set, this makes a ton of sense. I guess losing that context element of it is all part and parcel for a challenge mode like this, but I feel like that's all the more reason it should be genuinely challenging. On the bright side, since they are over so quickly, they never have the chance to overstay their welcome. Before we tackle this next mission and take the helm of that ship out there, I want to point out that it looks almost possible to paraglide to it if you start from high enough. And I'd like to use this opportunity to discuss a bit of movement tech typically employed by speedrunners. First, we're going to need to equip the stealth slide. This is a first for me. I just noticed you can see the freaking rollerblade thing Sly wears while you use this. And I guess this is my bad. This gadget is actually called Rocket Boots, not Stealth Slide like the second game, but I'm sorry, the name Rocket Boots is just a direct downgrade. You can't make me. Anyway, it has a couple odd properties. For one, just like Murray's ball form, using it even once slightly reduces Sly's fall speed. Then we can take the fact that we can combine it with any number of Sly's attacks, and we can do this. It's pretty straightforward why this happens. Sly's jump attacks are programmed to raise him to X units above where he left the ground, so even though we fall so far, it still zoops us up to its original intended height. Very nice. Put all that to use from this crow's nest, and we can reach it no problem. There's nothing to do on this bar key. Even though the wheel looks interactable, pressing circle does nothing. That same glitch won't get us anywhere near enough height to get back either, so we are stuck out here till we die or reload, but I find it neat the boat's even collision mapped at all right now, and not behind an invisible wall or anything. I should definitely note that there are more advanced and more potent height glitches that speedrunners use. There's an infinite height glitch that can be accomplished by canceling an aerial attack with shadow power, and then performing a feral pounce in midair, which lets you then cancel with an aerial attack and so on. The timing is incredibly precise, but it becomes a little less so by using thief reflexes. Even still, I'ma be real, my fingers can't do that.
Jesus.
Okay, Sly, time for the main event.
I've been looking forward to this. Every thief dreams of one day stealing a pirate ship. I don't know what it is, but it's like a total rite of passage. This is gonna be great.
As you'll be the first on board, you might want to keep your enthusiasm quiet. If the Night Watch detects you, this whole place is going to get lit up with guards. The rest of the team won't stand a chance.
Come on, pal. This is me you're talking to. I'm like a 4th degree black belt at this kind of stuff.
Murray will meet you at the Jollyboat, but remember, keep it quiet.
Okay.
We can reach the boat our way and clear it out, but again, with no way back, the game just kinda shrugs at you. These mines are comically easy to avoid, which is probably for the best, because they are one hit and you're sunk. It's actually been a minute since the game has obliged us to be sneaky as Sly. Getting spotted here is an instant fail. We can use our pirate disguise, and that keeps them from being alerted as far as the mechanics are concerned, but not the mission. Here's an odd tidbit. I had no idea that silent obliteration was a required gadget until this project, but yeah, you're not allowed to try and clear out this ship without it.
Sly, this job will require a deadly quiet sneak attack.
Even though we could totally pull it off.
Okay, guys, the coast is clear. Come on up.
Roger! I'll start rowing people over!
Then let's make full sail for the mouth of the harbor. If you guys are ready, I say we do it now. Every second we dilly-dally just puts us at more risk.
Agreed.
Murray, take up the anchor. Bentley, get down below deck and adjust the ballast. I'll hoist the sails and get this thing moving.
Given that your favorite games are likely to be the ones you've practically got memorized, a crucial element in the success of a video game that I think tends to go pretty unrecognized is the ability to surprise you. Now when I say that, I think there's a tendency to think of plot twists and story beats, but every aspect of a game can play a part. Music, visuals, and above all, those moments where you realize, wait, I can do that?
Avast ye lubbers, run up your white flag, where be Captain Jack Sparrow? Drink up me hearties, gooseneck the jib, keel haul the poop deck, shave his belly with a rusty razor. Arrgh!
We get a full, almost Windwaker style ocean to explore as we please, and a fully functional vessel to explore it on. We can gather coins from these floating chests, and in time we'll encounter opposing pirate ships, broadside to broadside, our cannons barking their fury across Neptune's sweet briny deep, and I don't think this was on anyone's bingo card. At the moment, we're only obliged to take on one ship and head straight to the treasure on Dagger Island, so I'll dig a lot more into this mode later. In the meantime, that tiny little harbor escape segment has a lot more to it than most players will probably ever see, since all you have to do is beeline to the open ocean. But if you let loose with your guns...
That was a bad idea, Sly. Everyone's sure to be awake now.
You'll wake up the town and they'll start firing on you. If you get close, you can see that the cannons function on the same cooldown as ours do. They're designed to miss you by falling just short, but they can hit you and even sink you if you sail directly towards them. As for the ocean itself, it's pretty smooth sailing. Probably the oddest thing about it is that there is an invisible wall surrounding it all, but it's way outside the bounds of the map. I think it takes nearly twice as long to reach the invisible wall from the edge of the map as it would to just sail across it. Okay, I know it's a nitpick, but according to the map, the mouth of the harbor is on the north edge of the island, but according to our binocucom, and I think the sun, that's the west. Come on guys, you had it right earlier.
You've got the map, Sly. Select it as a power-up and read its clues to find the treasure.
Dagger Island is easily the biggest sub-area in any Sly game. It almost feels like a second hub. There aren't too many details or landmarks that the search for the treasure won't guide us by anyway, but here's a couple. These nearsighted lizards, which totally aren't reskinned crocodiles, are surprisingly easy to take down. They're fully susceptible to many of the same techniques that most guards are. This tiki statue that marks the start of the treasure hunt has an obscure spire point on top, and if you look from above, you'll see the stone it sits on is shaped like a skull. As for the treasure map itself, it's a peculiar mechanic, but pretty satisfying too. Discerning details from the environment to solve clues, counting your paces, gold stars all around. Ayo? Double animal style, anyone? The treasure is buried in this SOS on the beach, and you know, I just recently found out that that never actually stood for anything. I know, I always heard it was Save Our Souls too, but it was actually invented by the Germans in 1905, and specifically for use in Morse code. As far as we know, the letters were chosen mainly for that iconic sound rather than any particular acronym. Back in the golden age of piracy, a maroon sailor's best bet at rescue was a smoke signal, especially since rocks on the beach are really only visible from a bird's eye view.
Treasure! Hold the beat, bro! I come to help you dig. Dig? We're all coming, Sly! This is too cool!
I open with joy. You Cooper gang is a tight groove. Van Gogh bullseye!
What kind of animal do you think Van Gogh was in this world? I'm thinking some kind of eldritch Cthulhian monster. That or a yak.
Primo diving gear to accentuate my deep-down diving style.
It's so intricate. Your grandfather was an artist. I've never seen such fine craftsmanship.
So I'm guessing the reason this 60-year-old gear is considered better than the state-of-the-art stuff is because it was stolen before Remy could, go on Shark Tank and get it produced, leaving Scuba technology decades behind where it would be in the real world. I'm gonna choose to believe that's what they were going for because it would feed into this game's themes.
I can dance, dive, and accessorize.
What else is in this chest?
Aye! Let's get a good look. Avast, lubbers! Didn't think you could steal from the smartest man of the 7 seas and not taste the repercussions. Har har har! I might have been late for the opening of the chest, but I'm just on time for the stealing of the gold.
Let Penelope go. We can work out a deal.
Penelope be the lass's name. Purty as a sonnet, and what a rich sweet scent from the wench's hair.
Let's thump this chump!
No, he'll hurt her. This guy's a killer.
Aye! You sum me up with butterword! Killer! Away with ye! Back to your ship! This gold is mine now, or her death is yours! Take your choice!
Guys, we don't have any options here. Everyone back to the ship.
You can't just abandon me. Help! Please! I'm so scared.
Penelope, do what he says. Stay alive. We will save you.
I trust you.
And I trust you still plan on logging back to your ship. Away with ye. Now!
For how much I love Penelope, I think it's only fair I acknowledge her detractors, who saw this scene and basically surmised that they took this intelligent and independent character and suddenly thrust her into the role of a damsel in distress. I hear you, and I agree with you to an extent, but honestly, I think the only reason this scene doesn't quite land is because the animation doesn't make it clear that Penelope is in that much danger. In a perfect world, LeFwee would have his sword around her neck, which would prevent her from, just walking away, but even without that, I can appreciate the deliberate use of traditional gender roles to drive home the mood. If LeFwee had, say, the guru at sword point and started smelling his hair to gloat, it wouldn't feel quite as despicable. If you think about it, that would have been the whole episode. We got Dimitri's gear back, time to head home. But with Penelope on the line, it's time to challenge the smartest man on the 7 seas to a battle of wits. This is an especially cool chapter because we are basically ousted from our safe house. We can't just sail back to the harbor when it's on full alert, so our current safe house is just the cabin of our ship. Though for my money, it's the coolest safe house yet. Our plans revolve around softening up LeFwee's defenses as much as possible, and by as many means as we can, no matter how unorthodox. We also learn from that Chalk Talk that the name of LeFwee's flagship is the Death's Head, which is like a 3-layer reference. Death's Head is another name for the skull design seen on a pirate flag, more commonly called the Jolly Roger. Now, the only pirate uncreative enough to name his ship the Jolly Roger was Captain Hook, but LeFwee's the cleverest boy, so he ran that through a thesaurus and got a synonym and no one called him on it. I want whatever service package Bentley has that lets him surf ThiefNet in the middle of the ocean. Did anyone else ever see this ship icon as a bowl of ice cream? Is that just me? These waters are now swarming with enemy ships, which we can engage with at will. Get too close to one and you'll be forced into combat, or you can press circle while in range to start on your own terms. Mechanically, this isn't too complex. You steer with the triggers while running around deck manning the cannons. The entire broadside rips loose when you fire any cannon on one side of the ship, and they take a random amount of time to cool down and be ready to fire again. You can fire before every cannon is ready, but it's kind of underwhelming. The guns aim automatically and will make you feel like a crack shot, but the same goes for the opposition. Your ship has 2 HP bars, one for port and one for starboard. If either empties out, you're sunk. As each side depletes, you'll lose some of your cannons. Which side takes damage seems to depend both on where the incoming cannonballs land and the direction they came from. Even if the far side of the ship takes a beating, the side facing the source of the fire will take the brunt. I believe it's a system of bonus damage, which is why if you take shots to your bow or stern, both sides essentially take critical damage. Luckily, our foes follow similar rules, and most ships will fall in one volley if you fire down their nose. When you take a hit, you have to attack the leaks to patch them up and keep the damage to a minimum. And I like that your crew below decks has callouts for this to indicate they're working on the internal damage.
There's a gap in the hull. My strong arm will nail it. Slow.
I'll fix what ain't broke.
The technology's clearly not there to have the whole gang on deck with you, so I appreciate this indication they're still involved. Ships will sink when you deplete their health, unless it's the last one standing. Then its masts will fall, and you'll have the option to board the ship and fight your way through a whole pack of sea dogs. Take out the captain and you'll get some extra loot, and then you get this charming total screen where you get absurd amounts of coins depending on how many ships you captured or sunk. If you have any gadgets left to buy, this is how you're gonna afford them. Back in the top-down view, the only way to repair your ship is by picking up these scattered health crates. We have 3 objectives to go after, but we can spend as long as we want becoming the new Scourge of the Caribbean. Strangely, we can even sail directly into Bloodbath Bay right now, but the area just won't load. I guess LeFwee's keeping it in a pocket dimension. I can respect that. We've unlocked a lot of Master Thief challenges from that last mission. We're gonna start with Last Ship Sailing, which challenges us to take down 5 enemy boats without any health refills. This is a pretty meaty challenge, especially since getting into it with 2 or more boats can get your ship wrecked. But don't bite off more than you can chew and take them on one at a time. There are a number of tricks to this, both on the high seas and aboard the enemy vessel. We'll start with the latter, just because the skills are more transferable from what we've been doing all game. The enemy captains have a number of resistances and unique properties. You can't deal damage to them by knocking them overboard, and they can even jump out of your silent obliteration, which is a new one. Wailing on them while fending off all their underdogs can be pretty hectic. This feels like everything Sly's expanded combat abilities were building up to. You can use your various charge attacks to deal damage to as many targets as possible, use your combat dodge, abuse knockout dives, but there's one glaring weakness they all share. Your jump attack level 1 deals massive damage and tees them up for a follow-up. The retrievers even get stunned in place, and you can usually serve them 4 of these before their crew even has a chance to come to their defense. As for when you're still in command of your own bark, what you'll really want to get down to in art is avoiding the cannonballs, which sounds improbable given the size of their target, but by turning at just the right time, it can be done. The golden rule here is never turn towards an enemy ship when you can turn away from them. You'll want to abuse angles and blind spots to keep yourself in a position where you can either dodge consistently or prevent them from bringing their guns to bear in the first place. The best ways to do that are to either lock your bow with theirs or chase them in a circle and match their turns. Your ship is the fastest thing out here, so I guess this would be the in-game equivalent of gaining the weather gauge, if you'll pardon my complete nautical nerdom. And that really does bring us to the crux of the matter, that the fantasy of being a pirate captain in command of a trim and triumphant brigantine is a near universal aspect of the human condition. But the truly astonishing part of all this isn't that this game is giving us a chance to fulfill that fantasy, it's that this game is giving us that chance. This is genuinely the best ship combat we would see in any game until arguably Assassin's Creed Black Flag 8 years later. And even then, I think this bears more of a resemblance to Sea of Thieves another 5 years after that. There were other pirate sims making the rounds at this point, as I mentioned, but when it came to the actual of it all, they tended to feel more like directing a pirate ship unit in an RTS than being a bold buccaneer in the thick of the action. The fact that Sucker Punch was taking all these kids to school in the back half of their thiefy platformer is honestly quite stunning. But shiver me timbers, I am here for it. You have to keep wind and your surroundings in mind so you don't accidentally ground yourself and leave your ship a sitting duck. If you can't line up a good shot on a ship's front or back, hammering the same side can remove their cannons and make them easier to deal with. The colors of the sails the other ships have rigged indicate different pirate factions, and if you get into combat with more than one, they'll fire on each other, or gang up on you if they're allies. That's nautical. Perhaps best of all is the amount of positive feedback you get for participating. As I pointed out, this game's gadgets are expensive. I've afforded all of them up to this point primarily with a great deal of grinding, and here at the end, the game is throwing open the floodgates and letting you have them. With me golden spoils, I'm gonna buy Sly's last gadget, Jump Attack level 3. It's almost exactly the same as level 2, but this electric shockwave it emits is much bigger, which feels like it was specifically designed for use on these pirate ship raids. Shame about the cheese we already have, but it feels good to have that checked off the list. The other way ship combat rewards you is with this career rank. It's almost entirely superficial, but the title that appears here is based on an experience point system. You get 1 experience point per ship you sink and 2 per ship you capture. It's worth noting you don't have to capture a ship after you've got them dead in the water, and 1 more shot will sink them. My favorite thing about it is that it is possible to hit a captain directly with a cannonball, but since you can't really aim, it's extremely rare. Every 10 points, your rank will change from landlubber to swabby, to picaroon, to powder monkey, to coxswain. Yeah, see, I told you I was a boat nerd, I know how to pronounce coxswain. First mate, quartermaster, captain, notorious pirate, and finally, dread pirate at 90 points. The modern releases of this game will reward you with a trophy for reaching that top rank, but other than that, you'd think it'd just be bragging rights. You'd think think so, but in fact, the more fearsome your reputation grows, the more likely enemy ships are to flee from battles with you. A fled ship doesn't give coins or XP, but it makes the rest of the fight easier, which is a cool reward. For that matter, it is possible to flee battle yourself. All you have to do is sail in the opposite direction of danger long enough and the other ships will disengage. But Happy Camper Orphanage didn't raise no quitters. I'll be going down with my guns blazing. I have no doubt the high score limit on this Master Thief challenge is once again 1,000, but I'm not sinking 1,000 ships without any health recovery. I hope you understand. We also unlocked Pirate Treasure Hunt, another treasure map challenge, though this time set in town. This is really cute. Again, reading your environment to decipher clues just feels good. Like, there's nothing in the area that would indicate this waterfall is called the Falls of Despair, but as the only waterfall on the map, and the reasonable assumption that this is Mushroom Rock, you can put 2 and 2 together pretty quickly. Then, when the last hint directs you towards the Falls of Despair, you can be confident in your newfound geographical knowledge. It's great. This hunt isn't too tricky with the hints, and snapping on the X marks is lenient enough you can even get away with going in entirely wrong direction in some cases. The main challenge here is that the area you're walking through is pretty heavily patrolled, and you'll likely be interrupted with combat every few steps. But get to the end, Sly does this little fist bump animation, and we did it. Hooray. Now, what were all those other Master Thief challenges I mentioned? Well, it so happens every level so far has a treasure hunt involved. If you were wondering why we had yet to 100% complete any of the episodes, this is the answer. Each one had one more challenge waiting to unlock. And this is an opportunity I've been waiting for. Nearing the end of this game, it obliges us to take a victory lap through every destination we've left behind, which gives me a chance to go over some of the things that change in the aftermath of the heists, as well as many of the wonderful details I missed that some of you have pointed out to me over the course of the project. Beginning with Venice, in stark contrast to Sly 2's Jailbreak, though Murray can never be selected over its course, he does get a spot in the safe house now. I'm pretty sure he's sitting on a stack of pizza boxes, but he's here, and dressed in his Dreamtime costume to boot. Something kind of neat I didn't have leave to point out until we'd seen his red mask model. His normal costume has these sort of goggles on it that essentially let his eyes be animated off the edge of his head. I imagine so they didn't have to completely alter his animation rig, his Dreamtime model has this whole extra mask just like caked onto the top of his head to contain his eyes. You can also see that the mask is still part of his model, just now colored the same as his skin. The elaborate headdress is there no doubt to distract from all these details, and credit where it's due, it worked on me. I always thought something seemed off, but I never looked closer until this project. Since Octavio's concert gone wrong, the stage in this park has been destroyed, but in an amusing oversight, one of the ropes tethering it to a nearby rooftop is still here, at least as far as the code is concerned. Now this is a Master Thief move. Speaking of Octavio's singing, when we first encounter him during Octavio's snap, he has a number of voice lines in which he hums to himself. While most of these are simple scales, one of them is the overture from the famous opera The Barber of Seville. Thanks to Phoenix Alaris 93 for pointing that out to me, but it's got me convinced this clip must be a reference too. It's too short to be certain, but my best guess is La Traviata. On to the treasure hunt. Thanks to Venice's rigid street structure, there are only ever a few directions you can move, which I think they took as an opportunity to make the hints completely meaningless. Not to mention they don't even rhyme. A point? What point? A spire point? That pointy roof? That pointy roof? You kinda just use the fact that you can't walk that many paces in any other direction and just roll with it. This final hint is also interesting. The struggle of man versus beast. Does this acknowledge the existence of humans in this world? Probably not, right? There's no way this map is canon. There's nothing really going on in Australia after the fact, so let's move right on to its map. I like this one a lot. It favors distant landmarks and alludes to the big truck a few times. It also makes me laugh that heading along the intended route, you could very well walk directly into this torch. I can't imagine that was intentional, but it feels like a pretty harmless joke on the player if it ever happens. In Flight of Fancy, I mentioned in the dogfights that there was no way to recover health. But it was pointed out to me by Edvin that these scarecrows on the ground have drops like regular breakables, so you can find and pick up health packs which don't actually do anything. Okay, come on, that's funny. Elf King let me know that I overlooked a melee attack Mugshot can do, and give yourself a second to picture in your head how Mugshot would strike physically. That can't have been what you pictured, right? Also, I goofed here and completely overlooked one of the new trophies. There's one for beating him in Beauty and the Beast without taking damage. Ironically, the reason I missed it is because I was running through the game on the PS4 version and doing this fight the fastest way I knew how, which of course involves him not being able to attack you. When I got this trophy, I just assumed it was for beating him at all. That's on me, that's my bad, everyone. It's also worth noting that the only guard the Guru is able to ride that a player is not likely to see are these rams, since they're not present when you're tasked with breaking open the ice truck, only during the wolf massacre, when you'll probably beeline for the doggy. The Holland treasure hunt is easily the most dangerous, crossing your path with a number of complications. It can be a bit harrowing to try and get those last few steps in before taking a hit. Finally, Cold Alliance has a little bit of continuity with the heist. The family temple remains obliterated, with the sole exception of this one intrepid little piece of wood. I'm rooting for you, little buddy. Okay, blast me off the highest peak with a trail of gunpowder because I managed to overlook another damageless trophy. You've Lit the Flames in My Soul is for completing all of Tearful Reunion without letting Murray take any damage. Penelope's chopper is allowed to get hit, but Murray can't get a scratch, which is quite the endurance challenge. I was especially baffled to find that this was the first time in the series that the guard's rocks actually count? Still, I don't think there's much I can add in terms of tactics that I didn't cover during this mission's Master Thief challenge. Okay, for some reason, every single one of these treasure maps is oriented perfectly south. I guess that's not necessarily wrong, this compass isn't labeled, but I feel like you only get away with that in Australia. China's treasure map is last and certainly least. More than any of the others, it's just like following the path. So that means I can talk about this mode at large. I've heard it said that this is Sly 3's answer to Sly 2's Bottles, which I feel is an unkind comparison. Yes, they both necessitate a certain knowledge and awareness of the level design, but it's a strained parallel at best. I think it's worth considering this mode on its own merits, and I think it's great. Even as a kid, where the idea of a challenge mode stressed me out so much I never even tried most of these, I still did all the treasure hunts because they scratch that certain itch. It's fun to know these levels, and to explore them from a new perspective. Now back at sea, I want to test something. The mission we're about to do, Deep Sea Danger, ostensibly upgrades our cannons in some way. The reason given by the game is that LeFwee's ship is too heavily armored for our current hardware, but I've always been curious to see if that affects their damage. So I'm gonna do some off-screen testing for a bit, and I'll report my findings when we steer back around.
Are you all set with your gear?
Got the gear, got the macho swimsuit, got more juice than you'll ever know. I'm a hit singer with a bullet!
Cool, Daddy-O. How about you take your pimp self down beneath the H2O and get nasty with the Scuba? Yo, with bling.
Hey, man, you can try, but you'll never capture my essential style. It's like smoke, ungrabbable and all over the place. But no matter nothing, come at me with some turtle talk. You got your own flavor.
Fine. Your objective is beyond the reef. We're looking for some more of these cannon blast amplification collars. We'll move the boat above the wreck and lower a basket for you to drop them into.
I think that's about as good as it gets for a scene with Dimitri in it. The phrase, "hit me with some turtle talk," especially sticks in my brain. I'd love to use that as a way to tell someone to talk nerdy to me. Never mind that this scene taught me the word pimp as a kid, once again, Sucker Punch getting away with anything they want, but let's dive in. I honestly wouldn't have thought this could work. The controls for these underwater sections are like reverse twin stick. You use the left analog stick to look around and the face buttons to move forward, back, left, or right. I have no idea why it's not just the right stick for camera and the D-pad for movement, but it's remarkably intuitive. This section is also one of the most visually impressive in the game. I especially love this transition between surfacing and diving, and the way you can still see everything on the other side of the surface. That out of the way, I'll fully admit this is the weakest new gameplay mode introduced for a little while. I think deep sea diving is almost an inherently exciting concept to design a game around, given most people's innate thalassophobia and the ocean's natural horror of the sublime, but we really don't capitalize on that here. It surprises me given the fact they programmed in the ability to surface that there's no breath meter, which means the only threat down here are the sharks, who are utter pushovers. They explode in one harpoon, swim in a straight line towards you, and don't even do that much damage. There are jellyfish, but they also die in one shot and are completely static. Apart from them, the only thing that can kill you is swimming out of bounds.
Stay away from the open water. The current will carry you down to your doom.
Strangely, the ocean current is a lot less prominent in the PS3 version, and I will say, this tooltip is pretty scary in its candor. Turn back or die, jeez. But it's hardly in your way. We gotta collect 6 cannon collars. They glow pretty conspicuously, but there are a couple tucked down in the caves at the bottom of the map. There are also a few treasure chests with coins and health, and finding those does feel pretty good even if the reward is negligible. Seems someone at Sony wanted it to feel even better, and you can nab a trophy for finding and busting open 4 of them. I think Sucker Punch realized how uninvolved this was and tweaked it pretty late in development. Despite the ship's 12 cannons, we only need 6 collars, and I was able to count at least 13 scattered around down here. I'm guessing they reduced the number you needed to collect, and added this line from Bentley to make up the difference.
That's 2. Only 4 more to go. You're a lifesaver, Dimitri. We had a few blast collars on board, but without a full set, it's hard to calibrate the guns for synchronized discharge.
Things do elevate a bit though. We need to hunt down some hammerhead sharks, and to lure them, we need to capture some of their food swimming down in the caves. There's a sort of sprinting swimming mechanic introduced with this stamina meter, but it recharges so fast you might as well always be swimming at top speeds. Seriously, why isn't this stamina meter an air meter? And it could drain faster as you exert yourself swimming at top speeds down here, far from the surface. That would genuinely get my heart racing. I have to figure if it's obvious to me, it was obvious to the devs. So maybe that was all the case, but it proved too stressful in playtesting. I don't know.
I know, it's because marine iguanas can hold their breath for anywhere between 30.
The hammerheads take 2 shots instead of 1, but their attacks are so easy to avoid it hardly makes a difference. The stated reason we're doing this, by the way, is that apparently ground up hammerhead shark bones can be added to gunpowder to make it more potent. And, alright, fine, I've heard worse, I guess.
Magnificent, bro! Your method and madness have cold set us up with a fat pirate gat.
This is one of the coolest areas I've hacked Sly into. You can really appreciate the scale of it by running around on foot. Oh, and here's what Dimitri's rig looks like in third person. I'm sorry, you can never unsee it. I also got a kick out of exploring the ship above the reef. This crane rig to hold the basket is relatively elaborate for something most players will never look twice at, and I was especially pleased to see you can take control of the ship from its helm. The camera was not mentally prepared for this, and if you try to sail out to sea, the game just freezes up. I'm so sorry, game, please forgive me. Battle on the High Seas is the mission to show off our Bristol fashion, tasking us with taking out 8 red-sailed mercenary ships in these waters, so it's the perfect place to test our new cannons. And as I said, I want to know if these schmancy golden ornaments actually make a difference. The problem is, this mode feels almost like it was designed to defy my testing methods. Let me start with the stuff I can say for sure. There are 2 types of ship out here. The larger ones are differentiated from the smaller ones by this extra high quarterdeck, the aft windows, and their cannons are kept below deck and pushed out through gun ports. For brevity's sake, I'll call the larger ships galleons and the smaller ones barks. I know these terms are technically defined by the length of the ship, the number of masts, and the shape of the sails, but by all those metrics, these are the same kind of ship, so this is what I'm going with. Galleons can definitely take more punishment than barks, but as for how much, that proved difficult. The biggest problem was knowing what part of the ship I was hitting. Murray always lets out an exclamation if one of your balls hits for critical damage, but in a full broadside, there's no way to know for sure how many he's excited about, and there's really no easy way to consistently fire one cannon at a time thanks to all their random reload speeds. Hitting the boat is most consistent when shooting from afar, but then you really can't tell where the cannonballs count as hitting. Am I hitting the ship's port side here or its starboard? Then there's the fact that when you hit the masts, it still counts as hitting the boat, so even if I slow down the footage, it's so hard to tell which ball was the finisher. So all I could really do was eyeball it. Best I can figure, with the regular cannons, the barks go down in only 3 to 4 shots to the front or back, and 7 or 8 shots to one side. The galleons took 5 or 6 shots fore and aft, and 9 or 10 to either their port or starboard. I'm not even going to touch combinations of shots to different parts of the ship. I did my best to hammer only one side at a time, then I went out and tested again after getting the fancy cannons, and all the numbers came out the same. 3 or 4 hitting the barks head on, 7 or 8 to their side, 5 or 6 to the ends of the galleons, 9 or 10 to their sides. It's possible these cannons are better in other ways, perhaps they reload faster or shoot further, but again, there are so many variables it'd be impossible to test with my stupid monkey eyeballs. Either way, I have every reason to be confident they don't make a difference in how many shots it takes to burn a ship to the waterline, which is a bit disappointing, but I am glad to lay that question to rest. Now on to the job at hand. Taking out this first red ship is child's play, but you're required to board it to learn the patrol routes of the other ships. As such, sinking it is an instant mission fail. Funnily enough though, it is impossible to flee. I did try, I got so far away you could barely see the ship, but the combat didn't end, so no running away from this one. Our next one pits us against 3 at once, which is normally the most we're allowed to try our hand at, but it's never been required before. The real danger is they start out surrounding you, so this can be a tough challenge. When in doubt, hit them first. By removing their cannons before they fire, you can minimize damage or make it easier to dodge. Turn constantly and keep an eye out for opportunities to fire on both sides, and you should be able to pull this off. The last battle of this job is probably my favorite part of this entire chapter, a 4 versus 1. The biggest boon here is that they all start with their weak points pointed directly at you, and you should be able to take out 1 or 2 before they can even get a shot off. Your best bet against steep odds like this is to sail away from them and force them to try and chase you. Once you've got them committed to the pursuit, turn and fire, and that should take care of that. If we take on that mission again from the jobs menu, we won't have the cannon upgrades regardless of if we've done Dimitri's dive. We know it doesn't make a difference anyway, but it's still noteworthy. This was probably my most replayed mission as a kid. I just couldn't get enough, and Sucker Punch had me covered on that front too, because our final 2-player mode has been unlocked as well. Galleon Duel is pretty much exactly what you might expect. Sly and Murray versus Bentley and Penelope gunning it out on the high seas. I feel like there wasn't much thought put into how this would work, and yet, in my opinion, it ended up the most balanced and interesting duel mode. Trying to keep the positioning edge on your opponent while balancing cannon fire with repairing leaks, it's everything that makes the ship combat great, elevated by the fact that you can't take advantage of the AI's poor planning skills. There's also an X factor in these sailboats that pop out of the sea from time to time. If you manage to hit one, they'll provide you with a power-up. You can get longer range cannons, rapid reload, faster turning, armored hull, and repairs. Repairs has an icon, but it's only on screen for a frame, so you'd never see it. Unlike the other modes, these power-ups are all on a timer, but they last long enough to absolutely shift the tides of battle. Gotta wonder what those little sailboat stories are. Wait a minute, a sailboat in the Caribbean? Lieutenant Barclay, was that you? Of course, I love anything Penelope is involved with, and the implication that she's just as good a helmsman as Murray has always tickled me. In fact, I've always thought Bentley's ship had the slightest advantage here because it has nearly perfect camouflage with the land. The last thing I was curious about was the size of this arena, so I pointed the ships in opposite directions and let them loose. Long story short, the arena is the size of this entire map, including the vast amount of open ocean beyond its edges. It took almost 25 minutes to hit the invisible wall to the north and over half an hour to get to the one to the south thanks to the direction of the wind. Being at the edge of the map gives me a great opportunity though. One improvement over Sly 2 that I noticed pretty quickly was the way characters react to standing on moving objects. Sly 2 basically had no system for inertia or momentum, which caused Sly to sort of slip all around in these situations. But you can see by the way Sly moves when I jump without pressing a direction that there is a slight forward force applied to him, which approximates the movement of the ship itself. I love this because it's the sort of thing you only really notice when it's not there. Our last mission in this set is odd.
Sorry, Bentley, but I can't see a thing in this fog. If your sea monster's here, there's no way we'll find him.
Well, it's imperative we track it down and discover why the pirates fear it so vehemently. Panda King, do you have any fireworks that might light the place up a little? Make it easier to spot the creature?
My fireworks are not flares. They burst with ferocious beauty and then disappear like the lightning.
Remember we added Panda King to our squad? Remember that? The Kraken, or Kraken, is perhaps the most famous mythological sea monster of them all, its origin stretching all the way back to ancient Greek menaces like Charybdis, a tremendous unseen beast which decimates ships at sea and leaves no survivors. It's really bizarre that our stated goal with this mission is to figure out why Crusher is so feared by the local color. Because it's a giant peck-off squid who can treat us like a bath toy, I would think? Luckily for us, we've got the Panda King on our side, and we get to let loose with him for quite a boss fight. A few oddities right off the bat. I have no idea why he has golden sparkles on the cannons instead of red, but it's even weirder that he can use them at all since they accomplish nothing. I like that we do have leave to use both fireworks and melee attacks to fend off the countless tentacles, and I adore every line out of the Panda King's mouth.
I will confront this creature with my firework artistry. So, you now choose to face me. Behold the Panda King, your master! Hide beneath the waters! Hide from your better! Yes, rise and let me punish you! Rah! Timid creature! With my beautiful fireworks I They are all gone. Cooper! Your assistance is requested!
This whole fight is a great test of our most explosive character. I especially like how frantic it feels to prime the fireworks while avoiding Crusher's projectiles. The modern releases even encourage you to make it all the more frantic by challenging you to take this on without taking any damage. But here's where the other shoe drops. I love this mission, but ridiculously, this is the last time we'll ever play as Panda King. Our boy only gets 2 missions to shine. 3 if you count the turret section covering Murray. It makes some sense. Though he's extremely destructive, he's also very simple, and between killing a horde of foes and killing a massive foe, pretty much everything I could think to do with these fireworks is covered. I mentioned up front with this episode, Sucker Punch know when an idea has run dry, and have become pretty expert at keeping any one thing from overstaying its welcome. But the other side of that coin is that they can't help but feel a bit shallow. A mile wide and an inch deep is the turn of phrase that comes to mind, but I'm loath to use it. Perhaps some of the gameplay is shallow, but then it always was. Jump and press the circle button to make the frickin' jump. It's the simplicity that pulled us in. The depth has always been in the design, the narrative, and the characters. And yet, I can't deny that it hasn't pulled everyone along for the ride. That's a shame, because we are just ramping up.
A grand battle that was, worthy of the names King and Cooper.
You really softened him up for me.
I feel like I should acknowledge the absurdity of the mythical sea beast suddenly playing a role in our mission, but honestly, I don't think anyone really bats an eye. Yeah, we're doing pirates, of course we're doing krakens too.
Say, Guru, could you get inside this creature's mind?
Yes!
What's he trying to do?
Getting us a new ally out here in the sea.
Yes! I take it all back. Guru being here to recruit the Crusher is gold. I will take on all Guru haters, including my past self. Only real interesting quirk to that fight I found was during the middle section, where you have to keep too many tentacles from latching onto one side or else the boat will capsize. If you let enough tentacles on each side hang around, they'll just balance each other out and accomplish absolutely nothing. You do need to knock off a set amount of tentacles to move on, so I'm not accomplishing anything either, but I thought it was neat. Normally I'd feel bad stealing Bentley's spotlight during these chalk talks, but this one's unique. He actually just doesn't explain the whole plan anyway. Check it out. We're gonna go toe-to-toe with LeFwee's flagship, board it, surrender, and then provoke the plainly cocky LeFwee into bragging about where he's got Penelope locked up.
Irritate the daylights out of this guy. It's our best and only chance to rescue Penelope. Once he talks, we roll out plan A or B, depending on the situation. This LeFwee is a smart man. Our only hope is to outsmart him at his own game.
What are plans A and B? Did those each get separate chalk talks? This is kinda funny. The point is clearly to keep the player in the dark, so whatever mind games Bentley is planning to outfox LeFwee come as a surprise, which I feel like I shouldn't give a pass, given that kinda goes against what I understood the point of the chalk talks to be, but whatever, I'm into it. Let's go roll those dice. This is the last time we'll have the opportunity to organically access ThiefNet, so let's snatch up the very last gadget. Murray's Diablo Fire Slam is the slightly more energy efficient, significantly more cumbersome equivalent to the Inferno Flop, incinerating everything around him, but it requires a guard in hand to perform it. It affects a wider range than the flop and is overall a decent return on an increased risk, but my main issue with it is that we haven't had any call to use Murray to punch any dudes since we got the Inferno Flop last episode. And now we have these two great combat gadgets entirely for the purpose of taking on old missions. I gotta say, Murray really got the short end of the gadget stick this game. He got the hand-me-down temporal lock, which doesn't even get an icon that makes sense, it's just a recycled graphic from his Berserker charge, and he got the ball form. Other than that, he's got a completely identical gadget grid to Sly 2. I don't know what I'd come up with if you put me in charge here. Murray starts the game with such a complete tool set, but maybe let him transform into stuff like the Guru? An electrical upgrade to his ball form like in the first game? I'm just nitpicking for fun now. Once again, it feels good to have an aspect of this game completed. That's another trophy in our bag, and we can grab one more easy one by taking out any 5 guards with 5 different power-ups. So we'll start with the ball form, then we'll hit one with our Berserker charge, then Fist of Flames, Inferno Flop, and Diablo Slam, easy as can be. That was the plan anyway. In execution, I got it on the 4th gadget. Before the sequence, I took one out like this, which may have counted as using the Juggernaut throw? I'm not too sure. Either way, we got the trophy. There is of course one final gadget missing from our grid. This conspicuously empty slot on Sly's top row is coded to be filled by Mega Jump, the ultimate ability from the second game which could only be unlocked through a cheat code. There's no such cheat code in Sly 3, though we can assume there may have been one intended. Alas, the only way to get it now is through hacking. It's not free to use either, requiring gadget power, essentially only giving you 3 hops before you have to refill. This is probably just a holdover from its function in the Cops and Robbers 2-player mode, and if it had been fully implemented as planned, it probably would have been free like it was in the last game. I also want to bring up coins now that we have nothing left to spend them on. From here on in, they serve no purpose but the satisfying clink of collecting them, and the dopamine hit from watching a number go up. Like and subscribe, by the way. So the only question that remains is, how high can this number go? Obviously, blasting apart every ship in the Caribbean would be the fastest legitimate way to find out, but I'm already cozy with the game code, so let's just manipulate the coin total from there. The way the coin count increments gradually and in real time is a neat touch, and a satisfying flourish given that this game did away with manually selling loot. So it's cool to see your cash tick upwards when you get a score. The downside is that they programmed it not to be able to increase by more than 100 coins per tick, and seeing as the coin limit isn't 10,000, or 100,000, or sweet golden guppies even 1,000,000, that means even with hacking, this is gonna take a while. Okay, a few hours later, moment of truth. Oh dear, it does not stop at 10 million. I slowed it down and determined that the number goes up every 10 frames. Okay, not bad, that's 600 coins a second, will reach 100 million in about 40 hours. Well, there goes my day. Okay, we're back again, moment of truth. You've gotta be kidding me. The high scores only go up to 4 digits and the coin counter goes into the billions? Whatever, let's do it. The Cooper Gang's greatest crime will be capitalism. Maybe after the Cooper Vault we could buy Twitter and burn it to the ground. You don't know me. 1 billion, 10 billion, why not? I've got nothing better to do. Oh, thank God it stopped. Okay, let me make a very long story short here. I did end up learning that the highest number the coin counter can calculate is 999,999, and only by manipulating it directly through the code can it display such enormous numbers. But no matter how high I set it, picking up a coin always immediately reset it to below 1,000,000. I got the display itself to show some ridiculously large numbers, but I figured out this part of the code is handled by a 32-bit signed integer, which is fancy computer talk for it can count to 2,147,483,647. Once it exceeds that number, it triggers an overflow glitch, meaning adding to that data is actually spilling over into the code surrounding the code used to track this number, which can cause some very strange things to happen, including going way into debt. I would imagine if you knew exactly what you were doing, you could use this to affect stuff like warps and which gadgets you have unlocked. But I'm just goofing around here. I'll leave the rest to the data miners. Well, now that we're the richest man on the 7 seas, let's take on the smartest.
Battle stations, we're headed into action.
It's gonna be tight sailing in here, Sly. Keep an eye on the rocks.
Right off the bat, we have one of the best mission failed messages in the game. If we try to flee out to sea, cowardly flight is uncooperly. Uncooperly? The Death's Head is tougher than any boat we've gone against. For all the old reasons, I can't pin down exactly how tough, all I can say is it took about 10 shots to the aft. But the AI is no better, so, you know.
Really, Cooper? A bad choice boarding a ship packed with over 100 pirates. Sure your Kane is up to the task of cracking all our skulls?
I don't know about all of you, but yours, I'm sure it can manage.
Ha! Restrain this man and keep your distance from the enemy vessel. This smells of lubber trickery. Take heart, boys. Been a while since we witnessed a good plank walking.
This is a great send-up to that bout of vinegar talk we kicked things off with. Nothing like pissing off a killer to get the blood pumping.
That's the best insult you can think of? I could do better in a coma, while speaking a foreign language, to deaf apes.
Your wordsmithing is preposterous, presumptuous, and patently premeditated.
Oh man, I can do that too, look! Little LeFwee loves to lie loud like a lofty lad, but he's just a lowly loon, a leaping lark with legions of lapdogs licking his laces.
I'm not worried about Penelope. A girl tough as that will free herself by tomorrow morning, then come and steal your wallet.
Ha! That chickadee will never escape her skull keep. She's locked up in irons, and there she stays until she agrees to love me, despite all my faults. Now be the time sharks launched on your parts.
You're the captain.
And just like that, the port's a war zone. These cutters all over the place are especially interesting since they are identical to the ones we took out earlier. Support beams on the mast and all. We can shoot the supports off, but this doesn't actually accomplish anything. We are only meant to make a run for the docks. Once we get there, the town's entire population will dog us down as we try to make it up to the Skull Keep. It's so hectic, I am thriving.
Penelope, that you? It's time for a rescue.
Ooh, and he got us. You know I love when the baddie gets us.
He's good.
We can never fully explore this room without cheats, but with them, we'll find there isn't too much to see that wasn't already on camera. It is a bit festooned with these giant chiseled stone hearts. Are these implied to be like Valentines LeFwee is given to Penelope to try and woo her?
Bentley! Sly's all blown up and LeFwee's boat is gaining on you!
Keep it together and meet me at the mouth of the harbor. If I can get into deeper waters, I should be able to give this guy the slip.
But Sly!
Keep it together. We're not done yet.
Blast! They'll make it out to sea in this wind. Jones!
Aye, sir.
Oh, word? That's Jones? That's awesome. This is probably the only definitive proof we ever get that most of our means of dispatching guards aren't deadly, since Jones was one of the guards we had to take out to get to the treasure map earlier.
Load the cannons and prepare to come about. If the breeze don't help, we'll fall back on iron and powder. Fire! Avast there! Afraid you didn't quite make it out of the harbor.
Yeah, honestly, I've seen some LeFwee haters in the comments, and I don't get it. This guy's personality is huge.
Sorry, LeFwee, but I'm sure this water is deep enough.
Deep enough to be your grave.
Guru, crush her, now!
By thunder!
Just crush her? Crush her! We're doomed!
Yeah, bet you didn't think we were getting any Guru gameplay this level, but now we get to crush. It's just a shame it's really kind of boring. This right here, this is it. This is all we gotta do for like the next 4 minutes. Sorry guys, this is just not how you do a power trip. If I start playing as a boss in their element, I expect to be able to use a few more of that boss's moves, you know? Anyway.
Call off your squid, or the girl gets it.
Back off, Guru. I'll deal with this guy.
Aye, that you have. Set me up to think I'd outsmarted you, then pulled me into the deep water with this beast. I tip me hat to ye. You're the cleverest man I've ever had the pleasure of meeting.
You getting this, Sly?
So let me try and wrap my brain around this here. Presumably the gang had a plan A for if Penelope was in the Skull Keep, and a plan B for if she was on board the Death's Head. And it seems like they just actioned both plans. Sly surviving that point-blank Penelope bomb and using it to launch himself back to the ship almost seems like it was also part of the plan given how Bentley reacts to it. He is truly galaxy-brained if so.
Yeah, I've got some perspective on the situation.
Avast!
Guru, get Sly! He can't swim!
Aye, shipmate, but who'll be helping? You.
Ah!
Nobody touches that turtle but me.
Me pirate flower finally blooms, yet ye'd favor this cripple over me, the smartest man on the 7 seas?
Oh, I do like smart guys. And he beat you at your own game. You tell me who's more intelligent.
Be still my heart and quick me blade. 'Tis time for a duel. You and I'll make the mating dance of death.
Why this shot? Why did they focus the camera on how utterly Penelope didn't help him up? Like, I wouldn't have really thought about it if you didn't zoom in like this. Penelope takes on the boss fight, and not with some RC mech or anything like that, just her and her steel. And before anything else, this was a very smart move. Again, turning Penelope into the damsel in distress and really leaning into it with this plot point about LeFwee hoping she'll fall in love with him, the dress he made her wear, and her reaction to Bentley rescuing her, giving her the big match with her captor is such a great subversion of those tropes. Hell yeah, this is the girl who boxed Sly into a corner on the wing of a plane in flight. Her combat mechanics are very simple. She has a high and low dodge, he has a high and low block, and they each have a high and low attack. And if we can force him off all 3 spars, we win. But if he forces off one, that's it for us.
Farewell, my pirate flower. 'Twas short and bloody.
The coolest thing I can bring up about this is to do with that hacked-in Penelope mode. The last attribute of her that I shelved for later was that if you let her lock onto a foe without running, she'll change into this dress and sword rig. Unfortunately, she's still not programmed to attack outside of this fight specifically, and the guards aren't particularly intimidated, but it sure does look cool. This dress is also featured in the game's concept art, and looks somehow even better there. And I can assume that this idea of a corrupt pirate captain cajoling his captive into a fancy dress like this is a direct reference to the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yes!
Martin smeared on the 7 seas!
LeFwee is a very rare boss to just straight up die. You can see the shark fins swimming in the closing scene and hear them chowing down in this one. Brutal stuff, but classic all the same.
LeFwee was beat, outsmarted by our own resident genius, who'd done more than just rescue a team member. He'd won himself a girlfriend.
Okay, now we can have the talk about Bentley and Penelope. Their relationship is honestly a perfect microcosm of the direction this whole game is taking. Let's rewind back to Flight of Fancy, where Bentley, our tech guy, contacts the tech girl of our next area's boss. Over the radio they have an undeniable rapport, but Sly and the Black Baron are in the planes. Bentley and Penelope are just playing support in the background. But uh-oh, turns out Penelope was in the plane, and it's immediately treated as a foregone conclusion that she's out of Bentley's league. She and Sly are the title bearers, and Bentley is once again just the guy in the chair. In Cold Alliance, though Sly is a cordial teammate, all of Penelope's advances kind of bounce off him, and whether she reads that as him being uninterested or oblivious, she does read it pretty quickly. And then, here in Bloodbath Bay, we get what is perhaps the most important line in the episode.
Why do the girls always have to go for Sly? It's just not fair.
The idea that Bentley is jealous of Sly is not one that had ever been brought across through dialogue, but it is there. As Bentley reinvents himself to be more effective in the field with his wheelchair than he had been without it, we can see through the gadgets he added exactly what more effective in the field meant to him. The ability to pickpocket, the ability to traverse rooftops and great heights with ease. Heck, Bentley even got the Insanity Strike and Alarm Clock gadgets from Sly's kit in the second game. And now Penelope stands as the most overt symbol of that insecurity. It's not necessarily about the girl, it's about Sly's automatic authority. Bentley leads the Chalk Talks, he instructs all the new members on their missions, he chooses the new members even when it's directly against Sly's better judgment. And yet even Penelope, no doubt their smartest recruit, is looking to Sly to lead. And that's what's not fair. It's not an admirable character trait, jealousy never is, but it's a deeply sympathetic one. Which leads us to what I think is truly brilliant about Dead Men Tell No Tales, and that is that Bentley is the main character here. Sly captains the ship almost out of formality, but watching as Penelope's focus directly shifts from Sly to Bentley as she realizes he's a lot more than just the brains, the audience gets to join her. He outplays the villain, and he gets the girl, and frankly, Penelope gets the guy, and best of all, it's all with Sly's blessing. Obviously, Penelope was never his to give up, but the spotlight always has been.
They'd have these conversations the rest of us couldn't even follow. As far as I could tell, they were made for each other.
When you guys are done making out, I'll see you back at the safe house. Sheesh.
Dimitri was in love too. The new diving gear had gone to his head.
Look at them holding hands over here, they're so freaking cute.
We were informed that he'd be our frogman for the Cooper Vault job. Not that any of us had even asked him. For the first time in memory, Carmelita didn't show up and cart everyone to jail. Oh well, I'll send her a postcard.
Gotta imagine Interpol just has negative influence in Triple B. Makes sense she wasn't here, but it's a very deliberate choice to give Carmelita the last word in this scene anyway. And so concludes Dead Men Tell No Tales. I alluded to it once before, but I know there are those who place this episode below Rumble Down Under, and I have a pretty good idea why. This level is really where the biggest criticism of Sly 3 shows itself. For a great deal of these missions, you don't feel like a thief. The thesis statement for the whole series. We're out to pull the heist of the century, loot the Cooper Vault beneath the nose of its wrongful caretaker, but every major step to get there has shifted focus instead to whatever our newest prospective party member wanted accomplished. We got to feel like an ace pilot, a Zen warrior, a dread pirate, all really fun in their own right, but that's not what we ostensibly signed on for. Sly is the thief. Look, it says it right there. I think the best way I can put what's happening right now is that Sucker Punch is essentially cashing in on all the investment that a player may have built up over the series, sending the adventure off the rails and reaching the edges of what it even means to be a thief. And there's a very simple reason for that. They know when it's time for an idea to run its course. And that doesn't just apply to the one-off gameplay gimmicks. It applies to Sly's story, to all of this. We've spent this whole time running from the inevitable. It's taken us places we might never have imagined, forged the most unlikely relationships, and maybe created something better as we went. But no matter which way we turn, it was always leading to the end. Our final episode awaits, Honor Among Thieves. There's nothing I can say about it that I won't say in the next video, and if you want to see that incredible conclusion and hear everything I have to offer towards it, it's on my Patreon right now. Check the link below to watch it while supporting me in the process, and I'll give you my savviest and most seaworthy thanks alongside all my patrons like Amiri the Grey, who can count so high mathematicians have to keep inventing new ways to express infinity just to keep up with her. Raven, who has never once found a lost civilization and kept their existence secret from the outside world. Not once, and certainly not like a dozen times. Raisin Bran, who can turn any kind of breakfast cereal into a deadly projectile, but his PR team won't let him use Serial Killer as his superhero name, which is a real shame. Rockington can control bees, not just the insects, but the letters too. Alex, Seeker of Shine Sprites, who was the subject of long-distance alien observation, and though there's nothing concrete yet, they're pretty sure Alec is the pinnacle of human evolution. Grim Degree can shoot the breeze with 100% accuracy. Chugs has never cried over spilt milk before, but he can cry tears of any substance he wants, so you gotta figure milk is an option. Meryl Hainsworth, who's in for an awkward conversation when her friends find out she's the actual real-life Tooth Fairy. Strangebird, who would be our supreme leader right now if they weren't so busy ruling over the dark realm of Helheim, which is fine, you gotta prioritize. Steve, who I am just genuinely super pleased to have in my corner, thanks for all you do in the Discord server, bud. And Sea Salt Trio, who can freely adjust his molecular density, and uses this power to catch balloons kids accidentally let go of, and that's just nice. More obsessive shoutouts to Busy Town, Chris Braydell, Doc Crimson, Eric Lee, Fundeldor, Jay Wibbs, Kane Lowwind, Kinori-san, Puggy Gallo, Quoth, Red Panda King, Remus, RPG Grenade, Rucksack358-2, Sato DeSable, Sean Flowers, Scar Million, Tabriz Sadiq, 10-Beat, Undead Crisis, Zere, and the whole armada of you scurvy scallywags. You're devils and black sheep and really bad eggs, and I will see you in the finale.